let's talk about what happened last night during the game. So this was about third quarter?
About
the third quarter. First of all, that game was interminably long.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
we got I actually got a text from our boss, Adam.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "Hey, this might be #fake news, but I'm hearing that D'Eriq King, the Houston quarterback, is entering the transfer portal." And then it was very quick. Basically, like, I said, "Oh, okay." And so I looked up D'Eriq King's Twitter, and he had literally just tweeted, "I'm entering the transfer portal." He tweeted something along the lines of, I should probably get this right. That seems like an important thing to get right.
I'm entering the portal. I think it's better for me and my family.
Correct. That was something along those lines. The exact quote from D'Eriq King was, "I've entered the portal. I think it's best for me and my family."
Go me.
You pretty much nailed it. Yeah, good job.
Off the noggin.
Okay. So it is always a big deal when a quarterback, and especially a quarterback as decorated as D'Eriq King, enters the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
But the story around this whole thing makes this even more remarkable.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's flash back. Let's flash back to, when was this?
Right before the North Texas game?
It was after game 4, I would say. So September 25th. Okay. That is when Houston was sitting at 1-3 on the year. And if you're unfamiliar, then the new redshirt rule says that you can play 4 games and still have a redshirt for that season.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, D'Eriq King, who is a senior, decided, or someone decided, that D'Eriq King was going to redshirt.
Right.
Maybe it was D'Eriq King, maybe it was Dana Holgorsen, maybe it was whoever. This was shocking. I remember sitting here in this studio and talking about how shocking it was.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though Houston was off to a poor start, D'Eriq King was pretty clearly their best player.
Mm-hmm.
Coming off of a sensational 2018 campaign. He was very much their best player. And, yeah, 1-3, but one of those losses was to Oklahoma. I mean, it was not necessarily shocking. Or, I'm sorry, it was not necessarily, something we saw coming.
Mm-hmm.
He and receiver Keith Corbin both decided to take a redshirt. And so the talk that we had was, okay, is Houston, and you never hear this in college sports, is Houston tanking?
Mm-hmm.
By which we mean, are they taking a couple of their best players, like Keith Corbin and like D'Eriq King, and putting the red shirt on them, saying, you know what, we're going to punt on 2019. We have a much more favorable schedule in 2020. We can make a run at an AAC championship. Let's save all of our bullets and put together our best possible team for 2020. That was a conversation we were having. Now, we don't know what happened in the room there in Houston. We don't know what kind of conversations D'Eriq King and Dana Holgorsen were having. All we have were things on record. D'Eriq King was quoted as saying, quote, "I'm staying here. If I wanted to leave Houston and go somewhere else, I could have. I think me being here is what I want to do, and it's the best opportunity for me. I don't think anybody will reach out to me to convince him to transfer. Even if they do, they should know I'm staying here," end quote. Dana Holgorsen was quoted as basically saying that he was under the impression that he was going to that he's a special player. All indications are that he's not going to the transfer portal. So if he's not going to the transfer portal, it's kind of against NCAA rules and regulations to be pursuing that. I've got no reason to believe that. I've never got the impression that D'Eriq is leading me astray in anything in the last 9 months. He's a wonderful kid. He's a Houstonian. He's a Houston Cougar. He chose to come to this school, end quote. That's what we know on the record, right? Obviously, something
that did
changed.
Not stay true.
Something changed. I don't know if D'Eriq King was being untruthful or if he had a change of heart. And frankly, look, I don't care. He's a kid. He's an adult, but he can make his own decisions, and he should have the right to make his own decisions. This, to me, strikes me as there was that De'Aaron King and Dana Holgerson couldn't get on the same page. That's my number one overall takeaway, is that maybe Dana Holgerson had a plan and maybe De'Aaron King had a plan, and those plans were not in sync, and they could not get together. Because remember, De'Aaron King did not commit to play for Dana Holgerson. De'Aaron King committed to play for, was it Tony Levine or was it Tom Herman?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it might have been Herman.
Might have been Herman. I think it was I think it was before he left for Texas.
Yeah.
He was recruited by Tom Herman to come to Houston.
Yeah.
So, look, this is obviously shocking. I don't know if it's necessarily surprising because we knew that there was a possibility that he was going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were holding on to the idea that Houston was redshirting these guys and basically throwing away the 2019 season to get ready for the 2020 season, suddenly the 2019 Houston season, which was already bizarre, becomes even crazier. And you start wondering, well, what in the heck was all this for? Does Dana Holgerson have a plan? It should be noted that Dana Holgerson sent out a tweet last night.
I was just going to say, what about that?
About
17 minutes later.
17 minutes after De'Aaron King tweets that he's entered the portal, Dana Holgerson tweets, and I'll quote, LFG and about 9 exclamation points. As in, let's effing go. What? What is going on? I would like to think that Dana Holgerson has a plan, but I also thought that the plan would involve De'Aaron King, who is very clearly one of your best players.
Does he have a plan, or was that just straight pettiness?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
interested in your
You're
take.
under the impression that De'Aaron King was involved in his plans. I'm under the impression that he was never involved in the plan.
Really? You thought that he was handed the red shirt?
I thought he
to
was
put
handed.
this on.
I thought he was like, "Hey, look, you can either stay here or transfer, but this is what we're doing this season."
Well, and I think that might be true because he wasn't the only player that happened to. They also did that to the wide
Keith Corbin.
receiver. Yeah.
But here's my question, though.
Mhm.
What is the upside for Dana Holgerson in doing that?
Seeing what you got. If he just looked at De'Aaron King and he's like, "Look, this isn't going. I don't see this work." We saw in the first couple games, it wasn't working. Whatever he was trying to get De'Aaron King to do, it wasn't working. It was similar to a Kevin Sumlin and Khalil Tate situation where it was like, maybe this guy just does not fit what he wants to do. We looked at every quarterback that Dana Holgerson has had. He's never had a dual threat quarterback, ever. Brandon Whedon, Geno Smith, who's last year's quarterback, Will Grier, never had a dual threat quarterback. We know De'Aaron King's at his best when he's not asked to stand up and throw, just not move in the pocket. I think he said, "Look, you're a talent. We like you. This wasn't working. Here's your red shirt. Decide what you want to do. You want to leave after this year? You want to come back and we'll try to run this back in 2020? Sure." But what Holgerson also did by benching him was also seeing, okay, see what Clayton Tune has. Let's see what these guys have. See what I have on this roster for when 2020 rolls around. Because in 2019, everybody headed in with this idea that Holgerson's here, Houston's going to win now. They have a quarterback. They have all this talent. They have Marquez Stevenson. Here we go, right? This is going to be a 9-10 win team, right? Is what the hope was. I don't think it was going to be a guarantee, but it was like, let's see what we can do. A couple games in, okay, that's not the plan anymore. Boom, scrap that. See what we got for 2020. If De'Aaron King wants to come back, if Keith Corbin wants to come back, we'll roll this back, and then we'll have the ceiling, and then maybe we'll get some of these younger guys in there, Mo Bakar, these guys who have played, who have gotten a lot of run this year. But if not, okay, now that we know Clayton Tune's probably not the guy that Holgerson wants. So now he can dip into the transfer portal himself and say, now that we know that we need a quarterback, I'm going to get a quarterback. We know a certain Texas Tech quarterback that is on the market right now.
Sure.
Jet Duffy. For those that don't know, Jet Duffy was supposed to. He committed to Tulane, couldn't get in. The story came out a couple days later. Didn't get in for academic reasons, I believe. So he's back. He's still on the market. Somebody like that. I'm not saying he is, but I'm saying there are options in the transfer market available. Who knows what happens with Oklahoma? Right? We see potentially. I mean. Is Spencer Rattler the guy? Do they go after somebody like De'Aaron King? Okay, what happens with Spencer Rattler? So there are the transfer market and the transfer portal, especially with quarterbacks, has proven to be a viable option. And if Dana Holgerson said, okay, there's a possibility that De'Aaron King leaves, I didn't see what I wanted to see from Clayton Tune. Now I know what I can do, and we can see where we go from here.
I think I can meet you halfway on this, but my thought is that if you're Dana Holgerson, like you can still get Clayton Tune 4 games. Do you know what I mean? He can still you can do this in reverse, and you can say, okay, De'Aaron King is our best player. Mm-hmm. We want to make sure that That's why I think that De'Aaron King had something to do with the decision to redshirt, simply because I think he wanted to. I think he decided that when whatever plan came about that we were going to give that the season was lost, that this was not going to happen. Because if he doesn't redshirt, he's done, right?
Right.
I mean he had never redshirted before, so he can he would have been out of eligibility.
Yeah.
I think he at least had some hand in it in the decision to redshirt him. But now, regardless of how it all came about, right? De'Aaron King's on the market. There's the immediate talk was everybody saying, "Oh, he's going to Oklahoma. He's going to Oklahoma," because of course Oklahoma's had great success with like their last 3 quarterbacks. Right. Baker Mayfield, perhaps you heard of him. Kyler Murray, perhaps you heard of him, and Jalen Hurts, perhaps you heard of him. They need a quarterback. I don't think it's going there. I don't think he's going there because
I don't think so.
He doesn't really fit as good as Baker Mayfield was. Like this, I think that this is not necessarily the right fit. I think he's going. I think there's 2 places, and they're both in the SEC, and they're both in the SEC West.
Ooh, you think they're both? Okay, go ahead. I'm curious. I think one of them's in the Big 12.
I do too. I agree with Ish. I think we're probably
okay.
Go ahead. What are yours?
LSU, who suddenly needs a quarterback.
Yeah.
Right. He's from the Houston area. You know,
he is.
He's from Manville. He's from the Houston area, or Arkansas, because Arkansas now has Kendall Briles as their offensive coordinator, and you remember in 2018 when he had his breakout season. The offensive coordinator was Kendall Briles. So those would be my 2 picks of where he would end up.
Yeah.
What about you?
Honestly, I think you got to throw TCU in the mix.
I do too.
He was a TCU commit before he was a Houston commit.
Gary said that last night in the
Gary
film
was
room.
on the
he
coaches.
said, "Don't forget where he was recruited first."
Yeah. And we know, I mean, as much as we thought Max Duggan improved, I don't know, is TCU winning 8 games and Max Duggan at quarterback next
Probably
year?
not.
Probably not. So I think you have to look at TCU as a legitimate possibility. As far as in-state, I don't think there's another option in-state. Obviously, Tech's rolling with Bowman, looks like. Baylor has 3 quarterbacks that they probably all like, even no matter really who the coach is. I think all 3 different quarterbacks have different styles that I think can acclimate to different systems if they need to. Obviously, Texas has Ellinger. No one, SMU has Bichelle. I don't think there's any other option in-state that's not saying that, yes, UTEP would love De'Aaron King.
Sure.
De'Aaron King's not going to UTEP.
North Texas would love De'Aaron King.
Right. De'Aaron King wants to win now, so he's not going to go to a rebuilding project to waste his last year. So I think TCU should be looked at as a legitimate option. But I do like Arkansas as a good option as well.
Okay. So here's one more thing, and then we'll move on. But there is, of course, what is left for Houston. Because, look, I don't think any way you slice it, whether this was planned or whether this was not, De'Aaron King leaving is a massive blow to the 2020 Houston Cougars. Because he was their best offensive weapon, maybe if you want to talk about Marquez Stevenson, who had an unbelievable year. And their quarterback situation, Clayton Tune, they have Logan Holgerson, and then they do have a true freshman, Safai Massoud, the Cy Lakes quarterback, who's going to come in. But none of those, I think, get you into AAC contention.
No.
So are we of the belief that they're going to try to pick up a grad transfer quarterback?
Yeah.
So then here is who is eligible immediately, right? You go with a guy like KJ Costello, who's transferring from Stanford. You can go with a guy like Felipe Franks,
transferring from Florida.
Felipe,
who in the very odd way lost his job to Kyle Trask, who was De'Aaron King's backup at Manville.
By the way, I think
that's a heck of a story.
I think I said that. I've said this before.
I'm sorry, Felipe Franks. It looks. People are saying that he's probably going to Kansas, but anyway,
okay.
Yeah.
I think I said this before it was actually like official. That the fact that Kyle Trask has been this good and Florida has been this good is the reason why I thought De'Aaron King would leave. It's like you're watching your high school backup play in the Citrus Bowl where they go.
Yeah.
Like, come on, De'Aaron King's like, I can do that.
He's not that petty. No,
Right.
I don't think that's.
I don't say it's petty, but it's like he can play at that level. I can play at that level.
Absolutely.
I think this whole thing is very petty.
But then there's Jet Duffy.
Right.
Jet Duffy is going to be a name that you hear a lot about, obviously, because he is in town. And then there's a guy like Anthony Brown who's transferring from Boston College. a few other guys that are immediately eligible.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I mean, look, this is jarring. This is a huge blow to Houston's 2020 chances. And now, look, at some point, somebody's going to be able to write the story of what happened in 2019 in Houston, because this is one of the most bizarre seasons, and it just got even more bizarre. It made a little bit of sense. A little bit of sense if De'Aaron King stayed, right? It made a little bit of sense. There's a little method to the madness. Now it's like
something just went wrong throughout the process.
Something happened, right?
Yeah.
Something happened that it just makes this pretty remarkable. A singular thing, a singular occurrence in college football as De'Aaron King is entering the transfer portal, and now Houston. They roll a Clayton Tune, but you got to feel like they're going to be in the market for a quarterback. Anyway, so there's a little talk about De'Aaron King, who did the all-time news dump during the middle of the college football
He
playoff.
waited for a really good time when a whole lot of people were on Twitter.
Yeah, I know. Between that and then, Wazoo hired a coach.
Coach,
Yeah.
The Hawaii coach.